So, Heather, we ended the last episode with a cliffhanger.
Yes.
And we took a 2-minute break and decided we better just keep talking, because my experience with us is that sometimes we toss things out and then we forget and we never
move on.
We never circle back around. So we're going to go ahead and record just right this second.
Yes.
There's no intro story. There's no rigmarole.
No jokes.
No jokes. We're just jumping right in.
I want to read Brené Brown's
Very good
definition of shame.
Bravo.
And I think that we could talk about this for a while because we all experience this in some way or another.
Okay.
An intensely painful feeling of believing we are flawed and unworthy of acceptance and belonging. And, somebody had asked us, like, why don't more moms reach out for help?
Yeah, when their kids are
struggling. And I think that the biggest barrier to that is our own personal feelings of shame.
Yeah.
It's painful to be facing something hard in your life that maybe is out of your control. And then we don't feel like we feel like we've done something wrong, or actually shame sends us the message that we are bad.
Yeah.
We are.
Heather, that's not just in raising kids. I see that tendency in marriage for you to not share with anyone that you're struggling in your marriage, because then you might be admitting there's something wrong with me. In the workplace, you're not able to, you no longer measure up. Your organization has moved on to such a degree that you stayed stagnant or what have you. And I can't talk about this with anyone because I would be admitting defeat or
failure,
or
inadequacies when, especially, I think in every aspect of our life, we have an idea of how we're supposed to show up. It's a should in our, you should be doing this. So you should be strong. You should be wise. You should have all the answers. You're a parent. You should know what you're doing.
I think about young people that call off an engagement. And I should have chosen better, or I should have behaved better while engaged, or I should have. And I don't want the whole world to see and to know that I'm a flawed person like everyone else in the world.
Yeah, it's a failure to call off an engagement when actually it's maybe a wise thing to do and protect yourself from further heartache.
A pastor I used to work for used to say that the most successful premarital counseling are the ones that go on and have a happy marriage and the ones that don't ever get married. Either one is successful, because if you determine that this is not the best step, shame can attach itself to you in almost any situation or circumstance.
The two big factors in dealing with shame in our parenting, marriage, workplace, whatever it might be, are what it causes us to do. It causes us to either isolate ourselves and we cut ourselves off from community and family or whatever it is, or it causes us to put on a facade to show up as what we think people are expecting of us.
Yeah.
Or how we...
I've got it all together.
I've got it all together. So then I will be accepted. I will be accepted when my kids are perfect, when my job is successful, when my marriage is happy and lovely and wonderful. I was thinking, I want to protect the anonymity of this person, but I had someone reach out to us.
During season 1, we recorded the episode on depression, and someone that is a high-level official position in an organization, just a very high-capacity, high responsibility person that said, "Thank you for talking about that, because I can't talk about it in the workplace or no one would take me seriously." When in reality, this person is responsible for so many things. And I think, how much could this person receive help if they had at least one safe person at work? Maybe not everyone, but a safe outlet. It's grueling to think that so many of us are walking around just with a cloud of shame following us around with no hope for reprieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it means to walk into a group, to recognize that shame wants to silence you, whatever your group might be, whether it's a meeting at work or a mom's group, whatever it might be, that as you're walking into that group and shame wants to silence you, is how do you walk into that moment choosing not to listen to shame, but to really determine to share your real, true self.
That sounds scary. I hope you're the one that's going to give an example of how to do that.
I think part of it is knowing, preparing yourself for reality.
Okay.
So a lot of times, let's go back to the new mom example.
Okay.
That you think that as a new mom, you should have a maternal instinct that's going to kick in and will help you to be able to comfort your baby, to feed your baby, to change the diapers, to teach that baby or whatever you want to call it, to go to sleep on time, to wake up, take a 2-hour nap. You think that there's going to be an internal knowing or a book that's going to tell you how,
Sure.
or something like that, of how to do this. And then when it's not working out and shame steps in and says, you're wrong, you're bad, you're not qualified, that we have to prepare ourselves in walking into those groups of being able to say, okay, this has not turned out the way that I thought, and I need help. I'm struggling here.
It's interesting. I was trying to listen to everything you were saying, but translate it into a different example for people that are not female and not mothers. I think right now so many people work from home, and so you're isolated in your work environment. So let's say you don't like your boss, or you don't agree with your boss, or what have you. You're going to have to find a place to discuss that with someone that can give you first can listen and absorb your pain, but also can give you some suggestions on how you might resolve the issue. Because what happens is we just sit in our little pity party circle and we get frustrated, and there's no forward motion, no forward momentum, and you end up leaving a job angry or getting fired.
The internal dialogue that you're having with whatever it might be, the internal dialogue is further isolating you and compounding the problem.
Or talking to someone that only agrees with you. Yeah. That is a big bad boss. I would hate that person. I wouldn't work there. I would quit my job. I would. Yeah. Instead of talking to someone like we mentioned in the last episode, maybe in a different season of life than you, a little bit of a different perspective to shine a light in a way that you can't see. So I would say, number one, you can't isolate. So where's the safe person, or like you said, group, community? Sometimes it's just one person, sometimes it's a few people, but that have different perspectives than you, that aren't going to just mirror exactly what you're thinking or feeling. People that can let you vent and absorb your pain. I think sometimes the first step in some of these situations where you feel shame is someone just hearing you out.
Yeah.
I was going through something with one of my kids that I was embarrassed by, and I was with 3 other girlfriends in a small group setting, and I was just letting them have it. I was just telling them the situation. And what I was expecting was for them to be like, that's horrible. Like, you should be embarrassed and disappointed and frustrated. But what I was watching was a safe and healthy community. We're all walking in different seasons of life of them just listening and just absorbing and just letting me vent and absorbing. And no one ever got their feathers ruffled. Now, they didn't let me do that week after week after week after week. But for one whole day, it was just like, okay. And then at the end, it's like, okay, let's pray about this and let's take a step forward. Like, here's what I'm praying for you and your family this week. And next week, we're going to talk about, something a bit different, something one step in front of that. Shame silences, and you have to be committed to not be silent. But who you share with is so
It is so important. You're inviting people into a very personal space.
Yeah.
And they do have the ability to compound that shame, to make you feel, again, those painful feelings of believing that you are flawed,
right.
that and that you're unworthy of acceptance and belonging.
Can we just say you're worthy of acceptance and belonging, but can we just say you are flawed?
Yes.
And so to a certain degree, you have to let some of that go and invite someone to show me where I'm flawed in this. Speak life and truth to me in this. And sure, absorb the pain, but giving someone permission to show you where you're not seeing. Where is your blind spot? Brian and I were having a disagreement recently, and I was trying to explain to him that, like, I don't see it that way. Like, when you're bringing this to me of what I'm doing that's bothering you or hurting you, like, I'm so blind to that you're not going to be able to be mad at me for it. Like, we can try to grow and progress past this, but like, I can't even see that.
Okay, so in that situation, Brian brings you something. He's like, it's hurting me that you're doing this in our relationship.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't even see that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Do you then take that to somebody else and say, okay, Brian has brought this to my attention. Do you see what he sees?
Well, have I done that yet, or should I do that? What's the exact question there? Let me answer it appropriately. Am I going to do that in the future? Yeah, I am. That's a great idea.
That's how, and that's how we that is how we become part of a community, is by bringing this and saying, okay, this has been brought to my attention, and you're bringing it into your community, your small group, your friends, whatever it might be. And you're saying, do you see this same thing in me? And how do I either correct it?
Yeah, that's
how do
good.
I resolve this? Because a lot of times if the person who you're in relationship with brings you something and says, when you say this to me, it really hurts. And you're just like, I'm just telling you the truth that shirt does not match those pants, whatever it might be.
Right.
And you're just like, I don't even see it. I'm just telling you the truth. Is that something that's coming up in other relationships?
Yeah. Shake out that tennis elbow. I saw that little. Okay, so what was your second point?
Well, it's just the definition of shame, and that shame silences us. It causes us to isolate ourselves, and which I think is the most dangerous place. I don't know. They're both dangerous. I think social media compounds all of this.
Yeah.
Because either we, especially presenting a false self to people.
Yeah.
Presenting a false self to people of, I have it all together, isolates you from me, because I don't know that I'm really buying it. That if what I see on social media is bows and ribbons and fabulous vacations and everything else, I don't know that I really buy that that's your real life. I don't relate to you, and so you're not somebody I'm going to be in community with.
I was just thinking about isolation and how social media trends to me are very, because of my age, very confusing and very strange. And sometimes I'm seeing people, even people that I know, go into some kind of character mode on social media, like putting on this persona, and I'm guessing it must drive engagement. I mean, there must be some marketing behind it, but I can't understand who the real you is. But I mean, can we understand who the real you is on social media at all? No. Yeah. I mean, on Father's Day, I put a post to Brian so that the world would celebrate my husband, but I handpicked the pictures.
Right.
some funny and some serious, but I curated the post. So I guess maybe now we're speaking to a younger generation, but people that live their life electronically and through social media and through their phone and through their gaming and through all of that, you're going to be more likely than my generation to carry shame everywhere you go because people don't know who you really are.
So true, because on social media, everything about your life is curated to present a certain...
Even when you say, this isn't my highlight reel, this is behind the scenes, you're still picking what you put out there.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't show you the behind the scenes of how I really get mad at my kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Because that would be too much. That would cross the line.
Yeah. That people would see the real you.
Yeah. And then they would reject me, I'm positive, because I know what the real me is actually like. It's not the greatest.
Well, and that's the thing with shame, is if they knew the real me, that I would not be accepted, that I would be rejected. And I think that this is a big part of what happens in church life is and why we don't ask for help is if they knew the real me, then they wouldn't think that I'm a good enough Christian, I'm spiritual enough, that for some reason there's this idea that if you are a Christ follower, if you are a Christian, if you attend church, then you should have it all together, which it goes back to being that you are a flawed person. Like we all have issues every single day and whatever it might be, your marriage,
I wish it was as easy as telling the church, our job is to absorb people's pain, because I do believe that's our job. But we're all hurting in some way, and we all have a defense mechanism, and we all want to self-preserve and protect and keep people just far enough out that we know we're safe. So I would say if you're listening and you've been hurt by the church, I'm sorry, but we're a broken body of people trying to walk towards freedom ourselves, and hurting people hurt people. And sometimes you get hurt and it's not even personal or intentional. Sometimes it is. But
so you have mentioned a couple times holding people's pain.
Yeah.
How do we do that? How do we...
I think it's something, first and foremost, it's something that you grow in, and you grow into being good at doing it. Because, man, there's a fine line between absorbing someone's pain and letting them vent and just feeling that pain with them, and then knowing when you got to turn the page and move on. We cannot keep doing this forever, because you don't want to enable bad behavior or a shame spiral. You don't want to enable that. But people are not going to take a step forward until they feel seen and heard. And so really seeing people and hearing them out. We went through some training, Heather, 3, 4, 5 years ago, for a small group curriculum that we actually don't currently use, but I think we're starting soon in our youth group. But the whole premise of the whole program is that the leader of the circle absorbs pain. So they ask questions, which I found absolutely fascinating. So they ask questions typically to people that have no relationship with the Lord. So maybe on week 1, they would ask a question. There'd be a circle of people, and they would ask the question, what do you think when I say the word God? And they don't add a pronoun to it. They don't say he or she or just a question. And out of the circle, you've maybe just had a meal with these people and kind of, gotten to know people to a certain degree. And then you try to find the person that you think's going to say the most outlandish thing, and you ask them to go first on purpose. And you allow them to go first. And we heard this story, which I thought was both brilliant in showing you how to absorb pain and brilliant in the findings on the other side. So there was this man who'd led this group, asks the question, what do you think of when I say the word God? Picks the person that was like shifting in their seat, seemed the most uncomfortable. Why don't we start with you? And this young lady said, if there is a God, I imagine a cat. You would be terrible at this. And so the leader was saying, so you listen and no response, no, that's funny, you're silly, just listen. And he says, that's an interesting perspective.
Tell me more.
Maybe not, but that's an interesting perspective. What about you? What about you? And goes around the circle. So as they journeyed together with this group of people, at the end of the 8, 10, 12 weeks together, they find out that this young lady that said that. So what the leader did in the situation was absorbed the pain. Like, I don't know what's going on. That's not how I see God. Instead of saying, oh, no. God is, instead of correcting, instead of adding to, instead of questioning too much.
Advice.
Yeah, let's talk after this. Let's talk a little bit. Just letting the person feel safe and welcomed and not condemned. Anyway, through the course of this time together, at the end, what they came to find out was this young lady had a very tumultuous home life growing up. Some abuse, some divorce, all these things. But her one steady was her pet cat. That, even though I was uprooted from this home and had to move to this apartment because my parents divorced, and even when my dad would abuse me, even when this happened, there was that one steady cat. Now that sounds, crazy and outlandish. But in that setting, an example of absorbing the pain was letting her share and not saying, oh, no, your perspective is wrong. Oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. No, that's not exactly true. Let me help you. Let me just listening. And then as they built relationship and as the girl began to grow, then becoming able to speak truth into a situation. So what do I mean when I say holding someone's pain? You're going to have to grow in it. You're going to mess up sometimes. It's letting people share and letting people be completely who they are and safe to share the scary and the ugly. Maybe you're talking to a friend that struggles with some irrational thoughts because of a mental health issue. You're letting them tell you exactly what they think sometimes, how that makes them feel, how uncomfortable they are, and without you judging or offering a suggestion, just going, wow, thanks for sharing that with me. And that's it.
Yeah.
But knowing when you then say, let's help come up with a plan so that the next time you don't feel that way, or when you think that it doesn't happen all in one setting, it's learning and growing, it's sharing with someone, man, I want to walk with you and absorb your pain and I'm new to this. I'm not exactly sure what to do. So if I hurt your feelings along the way, would you tell me? I think that's part of it.
I think that a lot of times you have to be willing to go first. That you have to, as you come into a circle, a gathering, whether it's at work, in a meeting, or whatever it might be, is being able to go first and say, I don't know what to do here, or I am unsure, or I feel like I'm failing. And you're going to get a variety of responses. But by being able to be the one to go first, you're going to have people that will step in and say, you're okay. I've been through that myself.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that say, thank you for saying that because I needed to hear it,
Yeah.
And then you're also going to have people that say, there's something wrong with you. And I think you have to prepare yourself for that. But I mean, if you're going out to lunch with somebody, if you're going out to coffee with somebody, you're taking a chance and inviting somebody that you would like to become friends with.
And can I say, don't be crazy.
Yeah.
You're dipping your toe in the water to see, is this a safe place to share a bit more next time? I think you're going to scare people off
if you share it all at one time. So if you're on your first coffee date with somebody that you connected with at church or connected with in a mom's group or something, and you're like, I'm going to explore this friendship, try saying one thing like, man, I lost my cool when I opened the back seat of the car and there were Cheerios everywhere. Yeah. How does that mom respond?
That's not your person. Then that's not your person. And then and then you move on. And when the door closes, you don't have to chase down that person or try to push the door open. You don't have to further explain yourself. You don't have to keep on going. And I mean, just you dip your toe in the water, you see if it works, and you walk in the path where the doors are opening before you. But if the door closes, just let it close. Just move on. It's okay. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Just move on. Just move on. It's okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
I feel like this is just as good as it's going to get from the two of us since we're non-professionals. So
Completely non-professionals.
But I think one thing that we brought to light and that we'll just kind of end on is that you have a responsibility, whether you're the person seeking out some level of relationship so that you can walk out of shame and dipping your toe in the water, testing the waters, going first. And then you have some responsibility if you're on the receiving end to be able to absorb someone's pain without judgment, condemnation, or correction. And navigating and learning your way through.
Yeah.
You're going to mess up sometimes. Be quick to ask for forgiveness if you mess up.
If somebody says to you, man, I lost my cool when I opened the door to the back seat and there were Cheerios all over the place, the best thing to do is say, I hate it when that happens, instead of jumping to, well, this is what you need to do.
If you put those Cheerios in one of those containers with the lid,
No, don't do that. Just say, oh man, I hate it when that happens.
Unless it's never happened to you, don't lie.
True, don't lie.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if anybody it's never happened to, but just tossing that out there. We're not trying to.
Don't lie.
Don't lie.
But
be a liar.
don't jump to advice.
Yeah.
Don't jump to never, if you're on the receiving end of somebody dipping their toe in the water, be gracious.
Be gracious. And you might gently shut the door, like maybe you're not up for that. Maybe you're not the person to absorb their pain on an ongoing basis. Could you just gently shut the door? You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be judgmental. You don't have to be condemning. Maybe you don't have time to get together again or ever.
Yeah.
But can you gently shut the door and just give people dignity to be who they are? Okay, real quick before we go, because we didn't do this last episode, and here we are. What did you do in the last week that brought you joy or those around you? Because we want to encourage everyone to, to spread joy. So what? Nothing. Okay, so we have a friend, Brian and I have a friend in ministry, and it's actually a ministry partner our church partners with, but I hope they're not listening, but it's okay if they are. So he and his wife are pregnant. They're expecting their first baby. They've had all kinds of fertility issues. And I just said to Brian the other day, so I haven't even actually done it, but I've had the conversation. I said, I just want to blow their socks off with like a really special baby gift. Just something that would be so beyond what they would expect as a gift. And Brian's like, let's do it. So anyway, I'm starting to think of what might that be and what could we do that's just really significant and really special. So that is bringing me joy, unless you guys are listening, and then it's probably not you. If you think it's you, it's probably not you. So there's that.
Oh, that's
so I'm
awesome.
shopping for baby gifts.
Oh, that's fun.
I know.
That's fun. Is generosity one of your spiritual gifts?
Nope.
No? You just learned how to do it.
I have really pain in the butt spiritual gifts, like leadership and discernment and like stuff that just like, let me just punch you in the gut over and over again. Brian is like giving and yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Brian's rubbed off on you.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. What is mine? I'm trying to think back to
what your spiritual gifts are.
Oh, I know what my
do.
spiritual gifts are, but that wasn't the question. The question was...
It's summer and all the days run together.
They do.
So let me give you some ideas to prompt yourself of what maybe you've done. Yesterday it was cold and rainy. Did you do anything yesterday that brought you joy? Last week you were without 2 of your kids because of camp. Did you do anything last week while they were gone?
I did a bunch of chores while they were gone.
Did it bring you joy?
Not necessarily, but
This is real life right now.
It is
like
real
we make
life.
it seem like it's so easy to do things just for the joy of it, and sometimes it's not.
Sometimes, I had a great week, but I enjoyed being able to check some things off my list and whatnot and do it without interruption.
Sure.
But, whatever.
You should find
it's an average week.
You should find somebody to give a baby gift to or something.
Maybe.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
If we could just get somebody pregnant, we could give them a gift.
Okay, we're not going to do that.
Okay, great. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed today's episode, we would encourage you to subscribe and to share with your friends and your family and maybe even your neighbors you don't like or the ones you do like. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.